Hey Phoenix Fab, what's poppin'? Today we're diving into airsoft ballistics and debunking some myths you probably heard or even said yourself. I use lighter BBs because they reach the target faster, so the enemy has less time to react. That statement is only partially true, and today we're breaking down why. We're putting common phrases from the airsoft field through a charts versus bullshit test to see what science actually says. Here's the deal. While lighter BBs may leave the barrel at a higher speed, they lose that speed quickly due to air resistance, making them less stable and less accurate over long distances. In this video, I'll explain why you should be using heavier BBs. Heavier than you might think, for better range and accuracy. The easiest upgrade for your replica could be as simple as switching to heavier BBs and adjusting your hop up. Whether you're new to airsoft or a seasoned player, by the end of this video you'll know exactly why ditching light BBs could be the move. Now, I know some of you guys are wondering, but does it really make a difference? That's where the science comes in. Let's dive into some basic ballistics and look at how different BB weights actually perform. We're gonna look at the following questions. Do lighter BBs fly faster than heavy BBs? Or which BB mass reaches the target the fastest at a specific velocity? Does a light or a heavy BB fly further? Or for the same muzzle energy, which BB travels farther? 0.2 gram BBs or 0.25 gram BBs? At last, do heavier BBs hit harder downrange? And here's a controversial one for you. I use the same BBs for my pistol and my main replica. Research disclaimer. The data for today's video comes from a research paper called the Airsoft Trajectory Project, created in 2012 by a researcher who has chosen to stay basically anonymous. After months of rigorous testing and some serious numbers crunching, he developed an advanced data model that predicts airsoft BB trajectories with impressive precision, taking into account factors like muzzle velocity, wind, hop up, and even altitude. Which is faster, heavy or light? Let's see which BB mass reaches the target faster when you're shooting at the same velocity. For ranges under 30.48 meters, 100 feet, the difference in flight time between BBs of different weight is almost negligible. Whether you're using a 0.2 gram or a 0.43 gram BB, they'll hit the target nearly at the same time. To give you a clearer picture, a 0.2 gram BB takes about 0.37 seconds to reach the target at 21.34 meters, roughly 70 feet away. A 0.25 gram BB and a 0.3 gram BB take around 0.38 seconds, just a 0.01 second difference or 10 milliseconds. To put that into perspective, the average human reaction time to visual stimuli is around 200 to 300 milliseconds. So 10 milliseconds is significantly quicker than a person's ability to react. It's the time it takes for light to travel halfway from New York to London. A millisecond is a thousandth of a second, so 1,000. So 10 milliseconds is 1/100th of a second, or 0.25 of a frame of this video. In other words, the difference is so marginal that saying lightweight BBs are faster makes no practical difference, especially when heavier BBs offer way more advantages than light BBs. Let's talk power. FPS versus joules. Let's check things out at a typical indoor velocity of 1.14 joules or 350 FPS. In many indoor fields in Germany, replicas are capped at 1.2 joules, while in the Netherlands, for example, that's the highest allowance for airsoft rifles at all, with snipers, of course, allowed a little bit more. In Europe, we mostly chrono power with 0.2 gram BBs in joules, with a trend towards chronographing using the player's chosen BB weight to account for joule creep. But what's the difference between FPS and joules? And why does it matter? FPS, or feet per second, measures the velocity of a BB leaving the barrel. It's straightforward and widely used to regulate airsoft replicas. But FPS alone doesn't account for the BB weight, which can lead to misunderstandings about actual power. Joules measuring the kinetic energy of the BB, considering both the FPS and the weight of the BB. It gives a more accurate picture of the replica's impact power. For example, an HBA or a GBB gun firing at 300 FPS with a 0.2 gram BB produces about 1.14 joules. But if you switch to a heavier 0.3 gram BB, the BB absorbs more power, which can increase the joules measured. This phenomenon is known as joule creep. That's because GBB and HBA systems have a larger volume of air at their disposal compared to an electric AEG with a rather small fixed least volume of air in the tiny little cylinder. To sum things up, while FPS is a quick and common way to measure and regulate airsoft replicas, joules actually provide a more accurate measure of the replica's power, especially when using different BB weights. Let's look at the BB time of flight versus distance at 1.14 joules. Let's break down the data. At first, the 0.2 gram BB is just slightly faster than the 0.25 gram and the 0.3 gram BB until about 25 meters or 82 feet. At that point, the graphs practically overlap, but when we reach 53 meters or 174 feet, there's a notable difference. Here's what we see. The 0.2 gram BB takes around 1.65 seconds to hit 53 meters, 174 feet. In contrast, the 0.3 gram BB reaches the same distance in just 1.3 seconds. That's 21% faster. That's a difference of 350 milliseconds, roughly equal to the average human reaction time. To put it a little bit into a perspective, I ran a reaction test where you click as soon as a red box turns green. My first try ever took me around 332 milliseconds to react. The second time I managed to get it down to like 230 milliseconds. You can try it out. I leave the link in the description. So if a heavier BB reaches the target faster beyond 53 meters, it essentially cuts down on your opponent's reaction time in a real world scenario. Now let's take this data outside and put it to the test in the real world. Let's go.
Yo, Phoenix fam, what's poppin'?
All right, Phoenix fam. So let's now try and see if we can replicate those numbers in the real world. For that, we have different BBs from Nimrod Tactical. They were supplied by Airsoft Zone, the sponsor of today's video. Thank you very much. If you're looking for some high quality BBs in various weight differences, they have you covered until like 0.45 gram BBs in biodegradable, as well as they have tracers. Their BBs come in the high performance or in the professional performance variants. The manufacturing process is slightly different, but they are lab proven to be practical, identical, and manufactured to the highest standard. So if you're looking for some high quality heavyweight BBs and want to try out some heavy BBs, go check out Airsoft Zone. The links to all the BBs I used are in the description below. So now let's get into it and start with 0.2 gram BBs. But before we do that, a little disclaimer. Of course, we can't really replicate the exact numbers of the charts. Yeah, I don't have a possibility to time the BB leaving the barrel and hitting the target. So we're doing something a little different, but hopefully we can replicate the results in the real world. So what we're going to do is we're going to shoot the BBs and then look at the waveform of the video where we can perfectly see when the gearbox makes a big sound, and this is basically the moment the BB leaves the barrel until we hear a plonk of the BB hitting the target. Keep in mind that this measurement of course has the time built into it that the sound needs to travel back to the microphone from the target. Sound travels at 343 meters per second or 770 miles per hour. So this is very quick, but even with that factor, we should be able to measure a noticeable difference between the lightweight BB and the heavyweight BB. If the heavy BB consistently takes less time to travel to the target, we can confirm the findings of the data and answer our own question, is a heavier BB actually faster? Okay, now we're gonna start out with a 0.2 gram BBs in my PhoenixFeatherAirsoft MK16 AG. So let's go. 1.46, 1.45, 1.47, 1.48, 1.45. Now we're gonna Chrono professional performance 0.36 gram BBs. 1.4, 1.36, 1.43, 1.38, 1.37, 1.39, 1.38, 1.38. Okay, let's Chrono 0.43 gram BBs in the PhoenixFeatherAirsoft Mark 16. 1.29, 1.31, 1.3, 1.33, 1.3, 1.31, 1.3, 1.33. Okay, now we're gonna start out. here we have our little BB test. This is the 0.2 gram BB, 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters. Then we have the same thing with the 0.36, and here is the 0.43 with 10, 20, 30, 40. And then what I did is I opened this up in Audition. So this is the 0.2 gram BB on 10 meters. I clicked and dragged this section here from the middle of this waveform is where the gearbox made its sound to where the BB hit the metal target. And then I went here in the spectral frequency display and basically tried to align it in the middle. Same goes here. I try to align it in the middle. And then down here, it gives me a duration of 0.135 seconds. If we want to see a direct comparison, we go to the 10 meters of the 0.36. We have 0.162 seconds. And then for the 0.43, we have 0.179 seconds. So we can see that at 10 meters, the 0.2 gram BB is faster, but if we go to 50 meters, so we go to the fourth clip of everything, we have a time of 1 second 397. This is the 0.36 gram BB. We have 1.170 seconds time to target. The 0.43 gram BB, we have a duration of 1.197 seconds. We can actually see very clearly that the 0.2 gram BB needs longer to get to 50 meters, but we also see in our little test that the 0.43 gram BB is a tiny little bit slower than the 0.36 gram BB, which means we might have crossed the diminishing returns of my replica, and the 0.43 gram BB is actually a little bit too heavy for my replica, which means I should reduce my BB weight a little bit to get the most out of a heavy BB. If you're interested in all the data, I made a little spreadsheet in Google Sheets and it's linked down in the description below. Enjoy. So there's a fight going on behind me, but the main takeaway is that it was very, very hard to hit something with the 0.2 gram BB at 60 meters away. 60 meter torso size target. I challenge you to try the same. The more you go up in weight, you could see how the BB got more stable, and with the 0.43 gram BBs, it was way easier to consistently get hits on 60 meters and hear them through the microphone. That's already us answering our own questions here. Back to the studio. Understanding distances and flight path. Now that we know the heavier BB is faster after 25 meters or 82 feet, let's look at the distance covered. The 0.2 gram BB reaches a maximum distance of 49.98 meters, 164 feet. Meanwhile, the 0.3 gram BB covers 53 meters, 175 feet. That's a gain of 3.36 meters, 11 feet, just by switching to a heavier BB. But why does this happen? Well, it all comes down to physics, of course. If you look at the flight path, you'll notice that the lighter BB has a much more pronounced trajectory, which is ultimately actually not wanted. This is because it experiences more vertical movement due to the hopper backspin. In contrast, the heavier BB travels with a flatter, more stable trajectory, which contributes to the extra distance it can cover. We'll dive deeper into hopper mechanics in a little bit, but for now, let's focus on projectile energy. BB energy retention over distance. Let's examine how well each BB retains its energy as it travels downrange. The 0.2 gram BB loses its projectile energy much faster than the 0.3 gram BB. Even when shot at the same muzzle energy, the lighter BB energy dissipates more quickly. Although it may start out with a slight speed advantage, it also decelerates at a much higher rate compared to the heavier BB. Notice how the 0.3 gram BB retains its energy significantly better. This means not only it travels farther, but also hits harder at longer distances. In fact, around 21 meters or 70 feet, the heavier BB delivers almost twice as much kinetic energy as the lighter one. This added impact can make a noticeable difference on the field, as players probably feel the hit more. Another advantage of heavier BBs is their ability to punch through obstacles. When shooting through leaves, bushes, and small branches, heavier BBs are are less likely to be deflected, making them a much better choice for outdoor play. Now let's look at 1.49 joules, which is a typical outdoor limit here in Germany. While some fields allow higher velocities, 1.49 joules is a solid all-rounder for outdoor play. Until about 25 meters or 80 feet, the 0.2 gram BB is just slightly faster than the 0.3 gram BB. But as we extend the distance, the difference becomes more significant. At 60 meters, 197 feet, the 0.3 gram BB arrives in about like 1.48 seconds, while the 0.2 gram BB takes a full 2 seconds to reach the same distance. That's over 35% slower for the light BB. That's crazy. In terms of range, the results speak for themselves as well. The 0.2 gram BB reaches 54.5 meters, 179 feet. The 0.3 gram BB covers 58.52 meters, 192 feet. That's an extra 4.02 meters, or roughly 13 feet, which gives you about 7% more range just by switching to a heavier BB. Based on this data, we can confidently state that at ranges up to 38.1 meters, 125 feet, all BB weights hit their target at roughly the same time when fired at equal muzzle energies. But beyond 38 meters, 125 feet, the heavier BB consistently reaches the target faster than its lighter counterpart. So which BB goes further, light versus heavy or drag force? Why does a heavier BB travel farther? It's all about the drag force. For a BB to maintain the same muzzle velocity, a lighter BB has to move faster than a heavier one. That means the lighter BB experiences more drag, which slows it down much quicker. In simple terms, the more mass a BB has, the less it deaccelerates due to drag, which results in greater range. A 0.2 gram BB is moving faster, but because it's lighter, it also experiences more drag. With less mass, the 0.2 gram BB deaccelerates almost twice as fast right out of the muzzle compared to a heavier BB. Basically, the key takeaway here is that using a heavier BB does not reduce your range. At worst, the trajectory is about the same as a lighter BB, but almost guaranteed the heavier BB will travel farther. The role of hop-up. With hop-up, lighter BBs benefit more from backspin than heavier ones, allowing them to generate more lift. That's the movement you can see. But here's the catch. Lighter BBs also lose their spin faster, meaning their lift effect drops off more quickly downrange. Ultimately, that means at longer distances, both light and heavy BBs tend to have similar trajectories, but the heavier BB is more consistent and stable. To really see the difference, let's look at what happens when we fire a BB at 5-degree upward angle at 2.32 joules. The 0.2 gram BB reaches about 82 meters, which is to 270 feet. The 0.2 gram BB makes it to 100 meters, 330 feet, and the 0.43 BB travels impressive 117 meters, like 385 feet. Heavier BBs consistently outrange their lighter counterparts, and most of the time they're even faster. Negating wind. Heavier BBs versus wind drift. Just like with drag force, heavier BBs have an advantage when it comes to windy conditions. Here's why. Acceleration is inversely proportional to mass, which means the heavier the BB is, the less it gets pushed around by the wind. Simply put, heavier BBs experience less lateral drift compared to lighter BBs. So while a 0.2 gram BB may get blown off course more easily, a 0.3 gram BB or heavier will hold its trajectory much better, giving you more accuracy and consistency in challenging weather conditions. So what BB weight should I use? Choosing the right BB weight for your airsoft replica isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. Every replica has its little own sweet spot, and it's always a trade-off between range and time to target at typical engagement distances. So it depends on your personal play style and preference, of course, like everything else. But without a doubt, I encourage you to try a heavier BB for yourself. It can make a huge difference, and it did for me. Of course, there's the cost consideration. Yes, heavier BBs can get expensive. The cost goes up exponentially, basically, as you increase in weight. For example, a 0.43 gram BB might take around 1 second to reach 50 meters, 166 feet at 1.49 joules, whereas a 0.3 gram BB takes about 1.06 seconds. That's only a 0.06 second difference, but the cost of 0.43 gram BBs compared to 0.3 might be significantly higher, though the 0.43 gram might be more stable in flight, as discussed. In terms of distance, the 0.43 gram BB reaches about 59.7 meters, 196 feet, compared to the 0.3 gram BBs at 58.5 meters, 192 feet. So the slight range advantage might not always justify the extra cost, especially when the time to target is similar. On the other side, if the BB needs significantly more time to reach the target, the enemy player might be able to dodge the BB more easily, but that might happen anyways. It comes down to your typical engagement range and finding a balance between time to target and maximum range. While a heavier BB has advantages, higher impact energy and being less affected by wind, the only real benefit of a lighter 0.2 gram BB is its ever so slightly faster time to target at close ranges, like 0.05 seconds faster at like 15 meters, which is 50 feet. Okay, but now let's cut the crap. Here are some actual recommendations from me to you which BBs you should use. At 0.5 joules, I would go with 0.25 gram BBs to 0.3 gram BBs. At 1 joule, I would go with 0.32 gram BBs. At 1.49 joules, I would go 0.36 and up, preferably 0.4 grams and up. And for snipers, I would definitely recommend 0.43 gram BBs or heavier. You'll be amazed the first time you shoot heavy BBs through your replica and see how much better they fly. Addressing the Joule drop myths. Don't worry if you notice your joules dropping when switching to heavier BBs. This doesn't mean your replica is losing power or range. Raw power isn't the only factor that affects distance. The BB weight has a bigger impact on overall performance, as we've seen throughout this video. Upgrades and hop-ups. Nowadays, most airsoft manufacturers provide pre-upgraded replicas that can handle heavier BBs. More often than not, you can get away with using a stock hop-up with a heavier BB. Even if you don't have an upgraded hop-up, upgrading is cheaper than most people think. You want to look at two main factors when upgrading. 1, BB weight. 2, desired velocity. A lighter BB requires a softer hop-up rubber, while a heavier BB needs a harder rubber. A flat hub-nub will give you more surface area to spin the BB, while my buddy Busty also recommends avoiding aluminum spacer because the rubber creates an undesirable buffer, but that's a little bit his specialty. His cheapest, quick and easy tip though, center your inner barrel in your outer barrel using regular tape. Wrap the tape around the inner barrel until it fits snugly into the outer barrel. This simple adjustment helps stabilizing your shot, giving you better consistency. This, with the heavier BBs, will give you the easiest first upgrades to a better performance on the field. Diminishing returns. Of course, there's a point where using super heavy BBs at lower velocities offers diminishing returns, but that point might be heavier than you think. I've been playing with 0.3 gram BBs. Recently, I tested 0.46 gram BBs in the Umbrella Armory EMAG for outdoor play, and the results were absolutely fantastic, especially when shooting through foliage and hitting those long range one hit wonder Phoenix one taps. I got a guy at Light Sim. He was just standing in the open. I started firing and then all of a sudden he had to run away. I don't know what happened.
Ah, den habe ich auf jeden Fall erwischt, der Pisser.
But maybe the 0.46 reached its target. A good hop-up setup and more energy increases the point of diminishing returns or loss of range. Indoor and night games. For indoor CQB play, I usually use the heaviest BB weight allowed, which is most often 0.25 gram BBs. When it comes to night games, I go with traces. I go for the heaviest, basically, BB tracer I can find, as long as the price is reasonable. Like these 0.3 gram bio high performance tracer BBs from Nimrod Tactical. They are perfect to see those amazing laser shots at night, which I really enjoy, and I usually do, so I can see them on the camera. Is pistol setup. I like to keep things simple. For my pistol, I use the same BBs as in my main replica, usually. I just adjust the hop up a little bit and that's it. Most modern pistols and their hop up mods can handle heavy BBs. I'm using the Norwich SSP2 with great success, as it comes with a TDC hop up mod, a little screw that really allows you to hop those really heavy BBs. Since I'm not going for long range hits with my sidearm, I don't worry too much about like how perfectly hopped the BB is. It's usually for those close quarter engagements where accuracy is less of an issue, or a non-hopped BB is actually maybe helpful, as it can drop down then maybe behind the enemy cover. This is basically how speedsofters play in the NSL. They don't play with any hop up at all. They want the BB to basically drop behind the enemy cover they're hiding behind, so you can still get them. And same goes with my pistol. I just have it there, so when I'm in my minimum engagement distance or indoors, I use the pistol and I have it like for 10 meters. Usually shoots way further, but this is what I'm thinking in my head. Beyond like 10 meters, I'm using my main replica. What BB weight should I use for 0.5 joules? Germany only. Let's quickly dive into the unique case of 0.5 joules in Germany here. Due to local laws, we are only allowed to use full auto on 0.5 joules below. I know this is a little bit restrictive and a little bit weird, but it's the law. I can't change it. I would like to, but I can't. Because of this, the common belief is that everyone uses the lightest BBs they can find. Usually they use 0.2 gram BBs. The Airsoft Trajectory project, though, recommends using also 0.2 gram BBs at 0.47 joules, as it gives the best effective range, where the BB doesn't deviate more than 15 centimeters, 6 inches, from the shooter's line of aim. The best effective range with the setup is calculated to be around 22.8 meters, 75 feet. In my humble opinion, I would still opt for the heavier BB, like 0.25 gram, for one simple reason. Like we discussed, they perform better in almost every scenario. Heavier BBs fly farther and are less effective by wind and offer a more consistent flight path. So use heavier. Will my heavier BBs be more dangerous to other players? One concern some players have is whether a heavier BB is more dangerous due to its higher kinetic energy. And yes, technically that's actually true. A heavier BB does carry more energy, which means the skin absorbs more impact and the force penetrates deeper into the tissue. So yes, it might have a little bit more of a punch. But keep in mind, we're all signed a waiver in the beginning of the game that we're out there on the field by our own will, and as long as you're using the perfect, proper safety equipment, which I highly recommend, you'll be just fine. Plus, remember that the moment the BB leaves the barrel, it's already losing energy with each meter traveled. Lighter BBs and skin penetration. I've seen comments online suggesting that lighter BBs have a higher risk of skin penetration because velocity is the key factor, not weight. The example given compares it to an anti-tank weapon using a high velocity shaped charge to penetrate armor. The idea is that in Airsoft, the skin has more time to flex with a slower, heavier BB compared to the faster, lighter BB. But honestly, I'm not sure how scientific that argument actually is, especially since both BBs are still 6mm in diameter. So what do you guys think? Maybe you can enlighten me down in the comments below, because I find this is not an argument at all. Too long, didn't read. Let's quickly wrap up things and take away these little points. Heavier BBs generally retain energy better and offer better range and accuracy, especially after 38 meters or 125 feet. For distances under 30 meters, 100 feet, the flight time difference between lighter and heavy BBs is minimal, typically around 10 milliseconds. Switching to heavier BBs can boost your range without changing your gun's internals. For example, you can gain an extra 3.36 meters by switching from 0.2 gram BBs to 0.3 gram BBs at 1.14 joules. Heavier BBs are less affected by wind, making them a solid choice for outdoor play, as there are better at penetrating foliage and grass and whatever there is out there. The sweet spot for a BB weight depends on your replica, of course, and muzzle velocity, but heavier is generally, I would say, better within reason. Of course. Usually, modern hop-up systems can handle very heavy BBs, so don't hesitate to try out weights up to 0.43 grams or higher for better performance. While heavier BBs can be more expensive, they are often a cost-effective way to improve your performance without needing extensive upgrades that you might not even know how to do. So final thoughts. At the end of the day, the message is simple of this video. Try out heavier BBs for yourself and see how it affects your personal gameplay. Maybe you're totally fine with lighter BBs, and that's totally okay, and I allow it if you want me to. It's all about what feels best for you playing Airsoft. It's all about the fun. But don't be surprised if you find that heavier BBs are just better. At a minimum, I recommend using 0.3 gram BBs. I've been doing it for years, and for every replica shooting above 0.3 joules, go with 0.4 gram and up. Or simply get the heaviest BB you can actually afford, because it can get quite expensive. A quick note, according to the creator of the Airsoft Trajectory project, there were some small flaws in this system, particularly an overestimation of hop-up spin decay. So the hop-up was not accounted enough. So the estimated effects of the hop-up at longer ranges were a little off. For example, the project calculated a maximum range of 58.5 meters for a 0.3 gram BB at 1.49 joules. But I've personally hit further with mostly exactly that joules. I used the SSR 90 at Dark Emergency, and I shot from one building to another, and it was around 70 meters kill confirmed with rangefinder.
$71. Let's see.
In reality, you can probably add an extra 10% on those distances measured. Then last but not least, thank you to Airsoft Zone for sponsoring this video. You can find all these crazy BBs I used and more in the description below. So go and get yourself some heavy BBs, and remember, even the heaviest BB is cheaper than a paintball. So here's one last question for you to think about. Should we all dimple our BBs like golf balls? Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video. BBs out for today. Bye.
Providing the tools you need to dominate any situation. Nimrod Tactical